Let's bring in Jim Lang now, Canada's foremost NFL expert. Hey, Jimbo. The Braves clinched last night with a win over the Nationals. The Blue Jays are rolling. They won at Philly 18-11. So, Jim, can you agree these are very exciting times in sport?
Oh, it's to me, October is my favorite time of the year in sports with all the football and the hockey. You got basketball starting up in baseball. I mean, to me, that's the money time because every day there seems like there's a significant event or game or something happening. We even have the President's Cup coming up this weekend. And not far from me in Richmond Hill, not far from where I live in Newmarket, is a kid named Taylor Pendrith who was hurt earlier in the year and played fantastic the last 6 weeks of the PGA Tour. And he was invited to be part of the international team. So there's a good Canadian contingent for the President's Cup. So I just love this time of year when it comes to sports, Rod.
I appreciate you spending some time with us, too. Like some significant time today, a couple of segments to get into all things sports. And I'll invite the viewers right now to write in with whatever you want. You see that we're airing all over North America. I'm traveling all over North America. I can't believe how big of a deal Connor Bedard is. He's the next Connor McDavid, the next Sidney Crosby. We watched him at the World Juniors. And it's a topic of debate whether his club team, the Regina Pats, will trade him or not. Because the owner doesn't want to trade him. It's a bad business move. So you heard what I said at the end of hour one. I'm a Cowboys fan. You're a Leafs fan. They seem to make sports-related decisions based on business, and that hasn't worked out very good. Am I right on that? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't disagree, Rod. You are right in that. But when it comes to Connor Bedard, I think I want to go back to what you said about who's going to get him. And when you watched him in the juniors, they're like, that's a pro-level shot. That's an Austin Matthews elite level shot already. And he's still a kid. He's not even a man. He's not even matured into adulthood. And he has an NHL caliber shot that could pretty much beat any goalie in the league if he's got the time and space to shoot the puck. That's a difference-making player. So if you're one of those teams heading into after January into that window around the trade deadline, you will be having serious conversations with the owners going, we are going to tank like it's the Normandy campaign and the Canadian Army is rolling through France. We are going to dump salary because we want to get a lottery pick because we want to try to get him. And that's one of the reasons the NHL instituted the lottery, because pre-lottery, I mean, there's going to probably be 3, 4, 5 teams in the league that would just strip them down to the bare bones and try to lose everything to get that first pick because he's that kind of a player.
He is, and people are trying to write in and say maybe he won't go number one, blah, blah, blah. No, he's going number one. He was better than Shane Wright 2 years ago, and he's a year younger. So I don't even want to get into it. He's going number one overall. Now, see how this is fun, Jim? If you and I had our own show, wouldn't it be great? Because
I'd love it.
Yeah, it would be the best. Why does the NFL not have a lottery system for number one? Because we knew last year, really pretty early on, that the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to get the number one overall pick, or 2 years ago, I guess, for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yes. Why doesn't the NFL have a lottery system? Because it seems like it's a pretty easy thing to tank in the National Football League.
Yeah, it's an outstanding question, Rod, and I've not even heard it discussed. I mean, a lot of leagues have talked about putting in a fail-safe so you can't tank to get a certain player, but the NFL, going back to the days of Pete Rozelle, really believed in if you are really bad, you should get the top 1, 2 to 3 picks in the draft. Rebuild your team so you stay competitive. Their whole thing was parity and not having teams be too bad too long. So if you're Cincinnati and you have a chance to get Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, you're good again. And if you're Jacksonville and you get Trevor Lawrence in a couple of years, you're decent again. You're competitive again. And the NFL seems really married to the idea that if you're bad, you won't be bad long because there's no lottery. If you are the worst team and get the first pick, you have the first pick and you can rebuild your franchise.
I'm just Googling it right now. I'm looking up this year's draft. But that should be wrong, though, because we're going into this season we're on the air in Atlanta, as you heard, WQEE. The Falcons don't want to win. Their general manager, Fontenot, saying, we're going to take it on the chin this year, and the fans are okay with it. Producer Clark's a Falcons fan. He was upset they almost beat the Saints in week 1. That's not good.
Alabama has got, I'm just gapping on his name, they've got a great quarterback that is a potential for the number one pick.
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young,
yeah.
Right. Yeah, so that's the kind of, it used to be Alabama's a good team. They can't produce good quarterbacks. We've seen evidence to the contrary in the last couple of years in the NFL. So if there's actually someone had a stat the other day that there was an LSU Alabama game a couple of years ago, and it featured Tua, Joe Burrow, like Jason Waddle, Jamar Chase, all on the same field at the same time. So now if you're Atlanta and you get a Bryce Young, that's a potential franchise-changing quarterback. And in the NHL, in baseball, you need that absolute stud pitcher. In hockey, you need a great goalie. In football, in the NFL, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a team. I mean, I look at what Tennessee, how they've stumbled out of the gate and their problems, and they really have started to lose a little bit of confidence with Ryan Tannehill. And I look at other teams around the league and Doug Pedersen, the impact that he's made in Jacksonville, restoring the confidence of Trevor Lawrence and how different he looks in his second year in the NFL as opposed to last year with the Urban Meyer disaster. He's a different quarterback. And with the right grooming and the right tutelage, there's no question that Trevor Lawrence can't be a big-time quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars for years to come. So if you're Atlanta, I see Bryce Young on national TV every Saturday because Alabama is the marquee team in the NCAA, probably going to be in the bowl championship game again. And he's going to play a lot of big games and groomed by Saban, who grooms nothing but Pro Bowl NFL caliber players. And why wouldn't you want a player like that? Because you have to have a quarterback. The reason the Buffalo Bills are so lethal this year is Josh Allen is so good. They got a franchise quarterback they've been searching for years. They spent time. They groomed him. He got a little bit better. And this year, he's virtually unstoppable. And if you look at all the teams in the league, the Lamar Jacksons, the Tuas, there's not a mistake why their teams are good and they score a lot of points because they have good, successful, competitive quarterbacks.
So let me tell you what's going on down here. I'm going to read a couple comments here. Jennifer from the Four Seasons writes in. She says, "Good morning, everyone. When you forget your phone at home and your work bestie brings it to you so you don't miss the whole show. LOL. Priceless." Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. Arlen Bruce III's watching. AB says, "Do you see the Raiders going after Lamar Jackson in the future? If not, will Jackson get $200 million plus?" So we got some questions coming in the NFL. I want to explain something to you, though, Jim. Like, with this, teams can tank to finish high or low, depending how you look. Pick high, finish low, and get a franchise quarterback. That's great. But I went to a preseason game here. It cost me $370 Canadian to go to a Dolphins preseason game against the Eagles. That's when they blew them out 48-10. That was for preseason. I sat in a luxury suite, met some great friends. It's awesome. This game Sunday against the Bills, that same ticket is $1,100 for one ticket, U.S. Okay, so if the NFL's going to charge this amount for tickets, but the fans are okay with tanking to lose, then who the hell am I to say, but I'm buying tickets now because the Dolphins told me our press box is full. This won't surprise you, but I want to tell all the viewers, and yourself, Jim, what's going on down here. The Dolphins, we're full, Rob, we don't have room. The Panthers are literally, "What can we get you, Rod? Here's your seat. Can we bring you something to eat? Can we put people on your show?" That's the Panthers. We're doing a show, hang on, Monday, October 10th at the Beach House in Pompano. Randy Moeller's coming down. Panthers, head of their alumni, TV color guy. The Panthers are setting some alumni down. That's how I'm getting treated here by the NHL Panthers. But the Dolphins are such a big deal. They don't care about coverage. They don't care about fans because they sell out every game. It's insane, dude. Insane. And this game Sunday against the Bills is the game of the week, don't you think?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I think for the Bills, so they've got this Dolphins game, these longtime AFC East rivals, and Tua McDaniel, the Dolphins, coming off that redonkulous comeback against the Ravens. And so then the Buffalo Bills, after this game, if you look at their schedule, I mean, if for whatever they face, it's Dolphins, at Ravens, Steelers, still the Steelers, then at Kansas City for the Buffalo Bills. And the way McDaniel and Tua are working in sync and they've rebuilt, and the Tyreek Hill addition to that offense, I mean, speed. If you're a DB and you don't make the right read and you miss your coverage, he's leaving, he's gone. He's gone. I mean, we've seen it. There's not many DBs in the entire NFL that could chase him down. That's next to impossible. So now Tua has a home run deep threat that it's just few and far between in the NFL. And so for the Buffalo Bills, this game at the chess match with the Bills defense, and can Von Miller in third down situations get pressure against Tua? Can Leslie Frazier come up with a game plan to take away Tyreek Hill, let alone Waddle, how good he's been this year for the Dolphins? And Mike McDaniel now has become the darling new head coach of the National Football League, and for good reason. And he says a lot of good things in his media conferences, Rod, as you know. But the proof is there. I mean, he's coaching his team up to believe that as long as there's time on the clock, they have a chance to win the football game. And this is good for the NFL to have the Dolphins this good, this competitive, and to have a matchup like this in Week 3, Dolphins and Bills, with this much on the line and this much hype. I think it's fantastic for the league.
We've got a whack load of questions for you here, by the way, which we will get to on the way. The head coach of the Winnipeg Ice, James Patrick, he's coming up later on here in hour 2. I'll just say this. It's, as you know, Jim, because you've been here enough and all over America, it's all football all the time. I love the coverage on the television and the radio. I can't remember who said it, but they said as a DB lining up against Tyreek Hill, you're beaten before the ball's even snapped because he's in your head. The guy runs 21.5 miles an hour. So the DBs are like, how do I even cover this guy? Press coverage, off coverage, whatever. He's gone. How do you cover him?
Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you have to roll a safety up on him in every play. And there was one touchdown where Tua, to his credit, he took a bit of a half step to the right off the hash mark and saw that the corner thought he had help over top. He didn't. And by the time he looks over the shoulder, Hill is a good 5 yards behind him at that point before the ball's even in the air. And so by the time Tyreek Hill catches it, he's waving to the crowd. He's in the end zone. So unfortunately, if you're the opposing defense, you have to have two on him at all time, high and low. I mean, I don't know what you do. I mean, then that means Waddle and Gesicki are going to have a lot of times where they're wide open. So for McDaniel and this Dolphins offense, this is heady times. Tua has grown leaps and bounds. Obviously, his confidence, the whole Dolphins team confidence after this win is going to be sky high. And I mean, and here's the thing, too, that we have to remember. This time of year in Miami, an early game, probably, I'm going to use Celsius, in the mid-30s Celsius with 70 to 80% humidity. Probably easy, right, Rod, for the game this weekend?
It was 39 degrees Celsius here yesterday. Okay, and I think the humidity was like 85%. So I'm sitting there. I kayaked in the Keys on Sunday for 2 solid hours, and while I made it, and it didn't feel bad at the time, I came home and had wicked heat stroke, I think. I should not have been tweeting. What were you going to say? Sorry.
But so now the Buffalo Bills are coming from this Western New York, Southern Ontario climate into that. No matter how much you train and hydrate, if you don't practice in that and live in that every day, it will hit you. And that's going to be interesting to see how, especially the big linemen, the big players, you got 320, 330-pound offensive linemen exerting themselves 40, 50 snaps a game, how that takes a toll in the fourth quarter. And that could be a big advantage for Miami late in that game because of conditioning, and they're acclimatized to that kind of extreme heat and humidity.
This is by far the biggest game of Week 3 in the NFL. I'm so excited to be there. Gil Scott and I are going. Tons and tons. Oh, yeah, it's going to be great. He watches every day. Shout out, Gil. Loves the show, particularly the CFL talk. But the Blue Jays are, I know, hang on. The Blue Jays are rolling, aren't they? Won in Philly last night. I guess they were chanting, "Let's go, Blue Jays," in Philly. Is there a groundswell going, Jim? How far is this going to go?
I mean, I think because of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., because of Bo Bichette, and George Springer, that addition, the Blue Jays have really, really got a strong fan base here. There's a lot of high hopes for them. It's a team that they're probably going to go to the wild card, but they need to win that wild card game, I think, to take it to the next level. I mean, this is Leafs country. And, you know, it's like Leafs, Raptors, then Blue Jays, and Blue Jays and Raptors are 1 and 1A, depending where they are in the standings and everything that's going on in the season. But the Blue Jays they've got the promise, they've got the excitement, they got the youth, they've definitely got the fans on their side. I just think they need to be able to put it together in that one game wild card and get into a multi-game series and do something to really, for the growth of this team, to take it to the next level. I know you had mentioned Charlie Montoyo, I think, to prove a lot of the doubters wrong. I mean, he's the guy in that clubhouse every day with that team on the road, and at home traveling. So whether he's a yes man or not, I think you have to understand what baseball's become now is a team would have a philosophy or organization that you pitch 5 innings, you don't go the third time around the rotation, you do this. That's not just for the manager, that's like team president, GM, and manager. So they're all yes men because they're all on the same page. And I know a lot of old school baseball people get frustrated. I get frustrated seeing a pitcher who's just mowing them down, and they pull them after 5 innings because, well, we can't face the batting order for the third time in the lineup. That's baseball. And that's what it is right now. They've got a local kid named Jordan Romano who's had a great year as a closer. They've got young talent. I think if they win that 1-game wild card and get into a division series, I think it's going to be just Blue Jays pandemonium around here and across the country.
That's cool. I was with some guys from Toronto last week here at the Panthers ice stand practice facility for the Florida Panthers, and they said where they are, people are talking Leafs and Blue Jays and Leafs. But, yeah, as you say, the Raptors haven't fired up yet. Todd in a Red Deer says, hey, Rod, big Raiders fan. Can I get Jim's take on the Raiders' future after the soul-crushing loss last week? Thanks again for all the great work. Go ahead.
Well, it's an old football axiom. If you fumble, bad things are going to happen. And Renfroe fumbles in overtime, and it's a scoop and score. And the second that ball hit the carpet, I'm like, uh-oh. And I knew it was over because it's just in that point of the game, in the extra period, and then the DB's gone, and Josh McDaniel and the Raiders are 0-2. And it's a tough one. But you earlier had mentioned, someone said about what are the chances of the Raiders getting Lamar Jackson. I say no chance. I say no scenario where Baltimore wouldn't give him, the kind of money that the elite quarterbacks of the Patrick Mahomes of the league have. I would be absolutely stunned if Baltimore doesn't lock him up and give him the money that he's looking for. It would be crazy to me. As a Raiders fan, from a fan perspective, it'd be great to have Lamar Jackson. But from a football, business perspective, I can't see how Baltimore could ever justify that because quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, who are you going to replace him with? That's what I don't see, Rod. So I just don't see that happening.
Well, I'll come back to that in a second. But Nelson, one of our viewers says, man, Jim can talk anything and everything sports and do it well. That's why Jim's one of the best. That's why he's on this show. And I want to get you to tell a funny story. You and I got to be good friends when you were the voice of the Argos, right? I guess we worked together for Sportsnet for a time, but it was more that Argo Rider thing with us. Tell that story about that old lady yelling at you at Taylor Field when you were calling the Argo game. It
was about this time. It would have been 2002. And it was about this time in September. It was just an absolute picture-perfect prairie day in Regina, about 20 degrees, sun shining at Old Taylor Field. And I'm calling the game, and there was a kind old lady. It looked like a farm couple, and they're in their 70s. And she gave me the business because she realized I was the radio voice of the Argos. And chirped me and rode me the commercial break the whole game. And of course, the riders were wearing the black and green, so it was almost impossible to see the numbers. And they win after. He goes, "That was a good game, son. Good luck. And your safe trip back to Toronto." Like, yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Oh, I thought it was she yelled at you or something. Oh, yeah. Okay, she did give you the business.
Oh, yeah. No, during the game, she yelled at me the whole game. But after the game, she was very polite. Goes, "Okay, good luck, son. Have safe travel back to Toronto." After she knew that the Riders had won.
Right, of course, the game's over. I just felt bad a few years ago. The Riders were playing the Argos at BMO, and you came to visit me in the booth. But things have changed in our business, man, and I felt bad. We didn't have time to visit. I had to get on the bus. Shoot, they left me behind in Edmonton one time. There's just no time anymore. It's just boom, 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 go.
It really is, yeah.
So, hang on. Well, let me just say this. Stephen Lilac. Stephen Lilac says, thoughts on the early season Detroit Lions offensive production? While St. Brown has become a quality receiver. Yeah, you just go ahead. You go ahead. Your thoughts on what the numbers they're putting up.
I think Dan Campbell, there's a whole thing in sports called the culture. Can you create a culture? Sean McDermott, when he took over the Buffalo Bills, said, trust the process. They had to change the same old Bills culture. And after a few years, you don't hear anyone saying same old Bills with the Buffalo Bills. He changed the culture. And Dan Campbell's laying the foundation to do the same thing with Detroit, a team that has had spurts and, a few good years here and there, and they'd fall on their face, and people in Detroit would go, same old Lions. Well, I want to tell you something for the Minnesota Vikings into this game. It's not the same old Lions. And for Dan Campbell and Jared Goff seems to be a little bit, have his confidence restored under Dan Campbell. And Dan Campbell has created a culture, a winning culture that we may lose, but we're not going to get beat. And that's a big difference. So you're going to lose the game, but you're not going to get beat. And there's going to be physicality and everything that goes with it. And you're going to have to earn it. So I really like what the Lions are doing under Dan Campbell. I really like how Jared Goff is kind of playing like a lot of people thought he was supposed to play earlier in his career. So I'm not going to say the Lions will beat the Vikings, but if Kirk Cousins and the Vikings play like they did last week, they won't beat Jared Goff and Dan Campbell and the Lions. No way.
We had a viewer in Indianapolis yesterday tell us that they want Frank Reich fired in Indy. They're winless, a tie and a loss. Should he be fired? What do you think of the Indy Colts?
Well, and then they got to host the Chiefs this weekend. And, the Chiefs' offense looks legit again. So, I wouldn't be surprised. And, it's not that they lost. They got hammered by Jacksonville. So I think if you're a Colts fan, you're like, whoa. That's embarrassing. That is downright embarrassing. So they don't fire many coaches mid-season, but for Frank Reich, the target is on him. And especially when he's playing the Chiefs this weekend and trying to stop Patrick Mahomes, that offense, I don't know. He's got his work cut out for him because it just doesn't seem to be coming together. And the offense, as we saw, they're shut out, but all year they just haven't looked right at all. So, and to try to get it together against Kansas City is going to be tough. So, whether or not Frank Reich is still the coach at the end of the season, my guess he probably would be, and they try to. If it doesn't work out, they'd make a change then. But you can't win a Super Bowl in September, but you could be behind an 8 ball so much into October, you might not be able to dig out of it. And especially with the schedule, they did them no favors having to host the Chiefs in Week 3.
No, but I think they're in a really crappy division. All they got to do is win the division. There's plenty of time to pull it out, don't you think?
Yeah. It's a crappy division, but you say they win the division. The way the team is rolling right now, built right now, they're one and done. They wouldn't beat a wild card team right now the way they're playing and the way they're constituted. So if that's the Colts and you're Jim Irsay and that's your measuring stick for success, I guess that would be okay. But I just don't see that. For Jim Irsay and his ego and the way his expectations of his football team, that would be enough that they would make the playoffs in a bad division and get knocked out first round. I don't think he would like that at all and be acceptable.
For the benefit of all of our Eastern viewers and Leaf fans, breaking news, viewer Paul Jefferson writes in and says, Kyle Dubas has been denied a contract extension by Leafs management. Is this a business decision or a hockey decision? Now, I knew they were meeting with the media today. Your thoughts on that, Jim?
Hey, this is 5th year of his deal. The team's not made it out of the first round of the playoffs. Why did he doesn't deserve an extension right now? Like maybe they go through the season and they get second, third round of the playoffs. Oh, okay. You deserve an extension. But pro sports are a result-based business. And if you're Brendan Shanahan and you're Leaf ownership and Leaf management and you have another lots of points, make the playoffs, lose first round. Well, hey, it's a tough business. Kyle Dubas, great guy, really smart guy. But the organization would be smart to say, hold on, we're just going to take a look around and see if we can do something better. Because I look at teams around the league and you're thinking, wait a sec, if the Leafs start the season right now, are they Stanley Cup favorites? They're a playoff team, but I don't know anyone that thinks they're a Stanley Cup favorite. But no one. So, and that's the GM's job to build a team that you start the season going, hey, the Leafs are going to be a team to beat. They're probably Stanley Cup favorites this year. I don't know anyone that thinks that, Rod. So I totally understand why Leafs management did this and told Dubas, like, hey, we're just going to see how things play out.
Do you have to go, by the way? Is your dog okay, or do we got to let you go? You have a couple more minutes? You got a couple?
Oh, yeah, my dog's fine.
Okay.
She just wants to play. I'm all good.
Okay, well, I think it's both a hockey and a business decision. How about that? There's the answer to that question. Andrew Stout, he's a Habs fan. He writes in, he says, just like what happened to Mark Bergevin, he'll be out if they do not win the cup. Just my opinion. Who knows? Darren Moose Dupont, I think, pricked the Leafs to meet Colorado in the Stanley Cup final. Just to point that out, our regular co-host. So we do know one person. It's Darren Dupont. I'm sure there's a few Leaf fans that think the Leafs are Stanley Cup favorites, but
I don't think they have the goaltending to make it to the Stanley Cup, personally. I mean, what Matt Murray are the Maple Leafs getting?
A question that came out from NHL.com today was, who do the Leafs start in night one, game one? Matt Murray or Vitek Vanacek? Who's the starting goalie? That's who they got. Was it Vanacek they got? I believe.
Samsonov. Ilya
Samsonov. Vanacek went to New Jersey. Right. Yeah, Samsonov or Matt Murray. Who do they start? If you don't know, that's not a good thing, I don't think.
I don't think it's a good thing at all. I mean, you can have all the look at you get into the postseason in the NHL now. The goalie is so important. So important. It's a difference maker. The Montreal Canadiens, you mentioned them a couple of years ago, they won playoff series solely because of Carey Price. And he covered up a lot of sins. Now, if you had Carey Price type goaltending with the kind of offensive firepower the Maple Leafs have, then I have way, way more confidence with the team going into the season for the playoffs. So are they going to let the season play out, see where they are coming towards the deadline, see if they can pick up a goalie? Because by that time, they're going to know what they have in Samsonov and Matt Murray and what kind of Matt Murray they're getting. Because that's to me, the gamble of Matt Murray is it the mediocre Matt Murray, or is it the playoff caliber Matt Murray when he helped win a Stanley Cup with the Penguins? I don't know if they know that.
Well, I guess that's what the preseason is for. This has been amazing, Jim. We covered it all. NFL, Blue Jays, Leafs. It's just exactly what I wanted. Thanks for this, my friend. Enjoy the rest of the day, and go Leafs.
Go Leafs. Go Blue Jays.
Go Blue Jays. That's a little more like it. Go Blue Jays at the Phillies tonight. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of The Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.